Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. The title of today's webinar is Main Functionality of the Superdoor Configurator and Editing the Administrator. I'm Brianna Ladd, a Technical Specialist here at ATG. This session will be recorded and will be available via our YouTube page later on. So I'm assuming that the interest in tuning in to today's webinar is because you yourself or your firm either struggle with the limited amount of doors that the out-of-the-box Imperial library from Revit has provided. Or you may struggle with not having a content creator on site at your firm to develop other door options that you may need for projects. We all know people with the skill to do this content creation are in high demand and very busy. And we all know that the skill set to do the content creation is a hard skill set and time consuming. And they may have a long list of doors that need to be created with no time to check those items off that list. So today we're here to explore and understand some functionalities of the Superdoor Configurator that CTC Software has created. We'll walk through the steps of where to find the installer, where to place the content, and the multi-step workflow using the tool's configurator or wizard that will configure a multitude of door types, expanding your door library. And lastly, we'll make a modification to a component, add it to the admin, and configure it with the Superdoor add-in. And we'll stick around for some questions. So we'll first take a look at the installation and where to find the install. Now, CTC Software is the original install, and we'll look at how when we open up the tool, it will bring us to this screen right here, and we'll go through this process. Next, there's a two-part installation, and that's why we're going through this today. So it's different than typical installations that you've seen from CTC tools before. So we'll go through the extraction process and where to place the content. The next is the configurator portion. So we'll go through and the multi-step wizard, as I call it, and make our selections in the configurator to configure the door that we want to. And last, again, we will take a look at the administrator portion and how we can make a modification to a component piece and add it to the administrator for further and later use. And we'll stick around for questions. So now we're going to jump over into Revit. So you can see that the Superdoor Configurator, I have this floating dockable palette that I just pulled down into my screen here. The add-in, added it in, installed it on the CTC Software tab. I have the suite settings as per typical, the Superdoor admin, and the Superdoor Configurator. I didn't go through and uninstall this portion of it for our purposes today for the demonstration, but I did go ahead and remove my content so that we can walk through that together. So the solution that the tool provides is reducing the need to understand family creation and reduces the time spent creating families. So it severely minimizes the legwork by clicking through the tabs and within the add-in and basing your selections on the component family's needs rather than having to build them from scratch. And once these doors have been created, they can be used over and over and over again on many projects. So the second portion of the installation, if I go ahead and take a look in my C location, C program data, CTC, and then Superdoor, as I open up the administrator, my window's shut, but what it did was as soon as I opened up the administrator, it created this folder and then these other two file extensions also. So the Superdoor settings file and then the .scd, the data. But I also see that I have this message here that pops up. And the message says that I need to go ahead and download the Superdoor content. By the way, when I did that first executable file for the first portion of the install to get the add-in installed on the CTC Software tab within Revit, which I didn't go through and show you, that's pretty typical, it will install on all 4 versions. So it did install on 20, 19, 18, and 17, and I'm going through this process in 2019. So I'll go ahead and say OK to this, and then I will go to where it tells me to go to download the Superdoor families. Currently, I have my door assemblies tab, my frames tab, my panels tab, with no content in them. So I need to go ahead and grab that. So I'll go ahead and hit the download button, which brings me to the CTC Software website, directly to the download for the content, and I need to select which version of Revit that I need the content for. So I'm going to select 19, throw it in the folder, and wait for that to download. It downloads a zip file, and what I can do is actually just extract. So I'm right-clicking on it, extracting the zip, and I can extract it directly to its current location. So if I go ahead and extract it, I'll say OK. So now I have this Superdoor content folder, Superdoor content folder. If I open that up, I can see that it's Content 2018 is another folder, and then the Superdoor installation guide. If I open the content up again, I have more subfolders, and those contain my actual family components. So it created the content folder per the year, containing the content of the different components. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on this Content 2018 folder. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to put it in my C drive location. So that is Windows, Program Data, CTC, and then Superdoor. Okay, right-click, and I'm going to paste it. I do already have one there. Again, when I opened up the admin, it created those 3 folders, the contents folder and those 2 other settings folders. So it does recognize that, and it says that I already have them there. I'm just going to go ahead and replace the files in this destination because I want that content folder to contain my content and subfolders within there. Now if I close down the Superdoor admin and open it back up, I should have gone through this process first. So we'll see if we can clarify whether or not it installed properly by just going through the process. So I didn't see my content paths correctly in that administrator, so I'll have to just go through the configurator here and see if it actually did connect it there. So the configurator here, we've got our different tabs for our different pieces of the components that make up the door. So we began with our main door assembly here. And you can select your main door assembly. In this case, I was just going to select by double-clicking on something like a swing door. On the door frame, which is the next option, I can select maybe a hollow metal framing. So the nomenclature here is going to give us some abbreviations as to what door type it is. So maybe it's aluminum or hollow metal. And then the second portion, the numbers here are for the transoms and the side lights. So the transoms are the first number. So in this case of this door right here, the aluminum has 1 transom and 0 side lights. So that's kind of the nomenclature on those things. So if I want to go ahead and grab maybe my hollow metal with 2 side lights, and I'll go ahead and choose my full glass door. For door panel, I have some different options in the door panels there too. And then my parameters tab. So you can see that I have some options that I can make, such as perhaps changing the height. If I wanted to make a different door height, I have some. Sometimes there's going to already be some options in here which I can use, or I can input a new value to use. And you can see that over here I have this helper image that's showing me what parameter in an image is going to affect when I make these parameter changes. So as I was going through and making my selections on the main door assembly and the door frame and the door panel, every time that I was making those selections from the assembly to the frame, the configurator, because of those components being configured in the background, and we'll look at that here in the administrator in just a moment, or in a few moments, it's narrowing down my selections to what I see in the next frame based on the previous selection made. So in the case that I choose revolving door, I'm going to have different frame options for a revolving door versus a pocket door. And we'll take a look at how that all works out. Again, you can see that I've got the different images telling me, kind of showing me what that will affect when I get there. Same thing, you have some graphic options on here also. And then basically when I get to the create door, this is where it's going to give you your naming convention, your main door assembly, your type name, and you can change your door name here if you would like to, and you can load it in. Basically, it's going to, right when we say finish, it's going to kick us into placing the door in our project, or you could save it to a different location as well. So again, we're going to check and see if our installation, this is what happened, that would have happened if I hadn't gone through that at the beginning. So it's telling me that I need those components. Try that again. Okay. So that first time I must not have copied it, placed it correctly. So now I can see that in my administrator, now that I've passed that correctly and put it in the C drive location, that my door assemblies are all populating, my frames on the next tab are populating, and my panels are populating. Also, we'll talk about the configured. All of these are configured, and we'll go through this, but this was the process of eliminating additional panel selections or frame selections based on whatever your door assembly is. So you would come in here and we'll go through this process, and you can say, configure that door, and you can configure it based on what you want it to work with. So we'll get to there in just a second. So now that we have that passed correctly, let's go ahead and run this again. All right. So it's going to create this swing door, hollow metal with full glass panels in it, and it's going to kick me right into the place mode. So I've got this default sample project here in the background, and I've just kind of zoomed in on the location here to place the door. So you can see that the possibilities do really become endless. You know, we've got this one door. Obviously, we can make many, many more. This can go in a library location, network location where many, many users can now access this door. Obviously, creating different types from it is an option too, to just kind of expand your library. So the next portion that I wanted to go through was saying that, say that we have a specific door. Let's go with the swing again, and we'll go with the wood door with no side lights, transoms here. And let's say that we have this one. Yeah. This one is not updating correctly, but it is a half glass Dutch door. You can see down here that it has a split section there. So this is the example that I was going to use. Unfortunately, that is not reading correctly. I'm going to select that half glass Dutch door and then go ahead and create this door. And you can see it rips through pretty quickly to create these things. It's pulling, obviously, the main door assembly, the panel, the frame, putting it all together, naming it, and then I can go ahead and place it. Oh, no, my error is just that there's an interior wall there. So now that I have that door in my project, let's say I want to make a change to it. So I'm actually just going to navigate over here in my project browser, go down to my doors, and I'm going to select that Dutch door, and I'm going to go ahead and edit it. Now in here, say that I wanted to get rid of this glass panel on top, so I'm just going to go ahead and swap out that glass panel for just a solid panel. Okay, so a small change, but to me this might be something that I want to do. So maybe I will name my naming convention similarly to how it was named also. I can close out of that. I saved that to my desktop, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that. Navigate to my C program data, CTC Superdoor Content 2019, and I'm going to open up the door panel. And I'm just going to right click and paste it in there. So now I have my door panel solid Dutch. Now when I go ahead and open up my Administrator tab again, on my panels, I now see that that door panel solid Dutch is in my list, so it's available to me, but I actually haven't configured it yet. So if I go ahead and check the box to configure it, I want to come in here and tell it what I want it to be configured with. So what I can do is, instead of having to go through and set all of these different things, I can actually pull from the Dutch door that I duplicated it from with the glass on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab that one. So I can load an existing configuration, and it's going to populate a lot of this information for me. Okay, so it's bringing that over, and we're going to call this, we're going to rename the description there. We're going to call it a full solid panel, and this is going to be solid Dutch. I'm changing the description and the seed name to have a full solid panel, Dutch, yeah. The yellow options here, the yellow highlighted parameters, are the ones that are available to input information into in the configurator. So once again, when we were in the configurator and we were selecting, maybe we wanted to change our height. That's because it's available in here for us to be able to change it. Okay, so now that it is configured, we can close down the administrator. Go back to the Superdoor Configurator. Go ahead and pick our single swing door. Go with our wood panel, our wood frame, and we have there's our half glass Dutch. Where did our full glass Dutch go? Sorry that's it. I did one more step here back here actually. Sorry about this. Okay, so I need to do one more configuration step in here for that solid Dutch, and that was also to configure the families that it is configurable with. So I'm going to go ahead and pick my single swing door here, and single swing door, configure that, and then select my compatible frames to actually be compatible with it. So I went back to my assembly here, my door assemblies, and I grabbed my single swing door, which is one of the ones that we've been testing today, and I'm going to select my compatible frames. In this case, I'm going to select my compatible panels, since that's the one that we just created and updated. And here in this list, again, down towards the bottom, I have my door panel solid Dutch, but I'm going to go ahead and go configure that with compatibility with that single swing door. All right. Now when I go back to the Superdoor configurator, my single swing door, I see that now as an option. So my full solid Dutch door. And I've made that change. I now have a new door type. I now have edited my Superdoor Configurator and my admin. I could go through and configure other assemblies in order to have that option of that panel be included and configured with those as well. For the purposes of this demonstration, hopefully you now understand how to do that on just one of the options of the main assemblies and how expansive this library can really be. So thanks for tuning in today to see how to install the Superdoor Configurator into Revit, how to place and path the content, run the configurator to create a door, and then edit the panel to add an additional panel option into the panel tab, and see how to configure the main assemblies to offer this as a selection now when creating the door. Feel free to stick around and ask any questions that you may have. Otherwise, thanks for joining to learn about CTC Software's Superdoor Configurator and how your firm can expand their door component library exponentially by utilizing this tool. Get in touch with your ATG rep for any more information that you may need. And thanks, and have a great day today.